Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Melissa Dubé, and today I am joined by my colleague, Camille Dibs. We are the public engagement duo here at Results Canada. My pronouns are she, her, and elle. We would like to pay respect to the Algonquin people, who are the traditional guardians of the land where the Office of Results Canada is in Ottawa. We at Results Canada acknowledge their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to be present in this territory. I'm glad to see you all join this call today, and hello to those who are watching the recording. As I go through logistics next, say hello and tell others where you are located in the chat box. As we have folks who are brand new to Results, allow me first to give a quick overview of who we are. We are a grassroots advocacy organization that believes in mobilizing everyday people to use their voices to generate the political will to end extreme poverty. We combine the voices of our volunteers with strategic areas of focus to leverage resources for programs and improve policies that give people living in poverty the health, education, and opportunity they need to thrive. Whether it's writing letters to the editor or LTEs, using social media, or engaging with parliamentarians, our passionate volunteers positively impact people living in low and middle income countries. As a national nonprofit, we have sister organizations in the US, in the UK, Australia, and Japan, with a global health network of partners in India, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya, and France. This session is 1 hour and will be recorded and sent to all registrants. Please keep yourself muted unless speaking. We will have a designated Q&A period, so prepare your questions. We will let you know when you can use the raise hand icon if you would like to speak, or you can also use the chat box at any time. Turn on your video if you want to, and if you're comfortable doing so, and this will be particularly nice when you are in a small group later. Our time together is short, so if you have more questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out. We will give you our contact details towards the end. We also have closed captioning available that should appear at the bottom of your screen. You may click on a button to turn it on. Let's take a look at what you can expect in today's webinar. First, we'll hear more about why fundraising matters to an organization like Results. We'll then briefly get an overview of our upcoming peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, and we'll then explore top fundraising practices, how to get over common fears and hurdles when fundraising, how to follow our EPIC method for communicating effectively. You will all then go in smaller groups for a breakout activity, and this portion will not be recorded. And then after that, we will regroup to address any questions, and we will wrap up with a group photo for those who want to be in it. So please prepare yourself. All right, so now we'll take a few seconds to launch a poll, as we'd love to hear from you, and I'll read out the questions too. So I have now launched the poll, and let me read the questions. The first question, you have two questions. The first question is, which of the following best describes your experience with peer-to-peer fundraising? This is a single choice question. The answers are, I have no experience, I have contributed, I have created, launched a peer-to-peer, I am a peer-to-peer fundraising pro. The second question reads as, which of the following best describes your feelings towards fundraising? I'm excited, I'm apprehensive, I'm scared, I'm super eager to learn, I feel unprepared. So I will give you a few seconds to fill out these two questions.
Melissa, it's Anita.
Hi.
Hi, I only have the agenda in front of me. I'm just wondering why I don't see the questions.
It might be the way that your system is set up. Sorry about that. I'll close the poll anyway now. Yeah, maybe you want to contribute your answers in the chat box.
I can't see the questions.
It's okay. It's only a small portion of the webinar anyway.
Okay.
And I've just finished it. I've just closed it. So thanks. Sorry about that. Sometimes we find that Zoom has different settings for different people. All right, so I am now sharing the results. So let's take a look here at what you all have answered. So 68% of folks have said that they have no experience with peer-to-peer fundraising. That's great. You're in the right spot. And 52% have said that they are eager to learn. We have some few people who are scared. That's totally okay. Excited. That's great. So let me stop sharing the poll. Don't worry, we will try to address all of your feelings and questions in this webinar. And as I said, the conversation does not stop today. At any time that you have questions or doubts, we have a few ways for you to get the support that you need. All right, so we will first dig into why fundraising is important. So to do this, we will watch a short video of our executive director, Chris Dendies, who could not be here with us today. So I will mute myself and then I will turn on the video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Dendies. I'm the Executive Director of Results Canada. Thank you for taking this time to learn, to share best practices, and to sharpen your skills on fundraising. To some of you, this may be the very first time you've even thought about fundraising, let alone thought about yourself, doing a training on it. But I'm glad you're here because fundraising is really important. And the training you're going to get is important as well. And here are 3 reasons why. First, the organizations that you care about, even really lean organizations like Results, or the causes that you endorse, well, we need resources to do our work. The funds that organizations like Results gets, for example, pays the salaries, supports our operations, and quite literally allows us to keep the lights on. It's hard to work in the dark. And without resources, we wouldn't be able to do our important work. Number 2, asking others to engage in a cause you feel passionate about is a gift. That's because how we allocate our resources as a country or as individuals paints a picture of who we are, what we stand for in the world, and what we hold as values. So when I invite people, for example, to donate to Results, I feel like I'm giving them an opportunity to demonstrate that they stand for global impact, for an end to extreme poverty, for hope and solutions, and that through their donation, I'm helping them to make a bold bet that a better world is possible. And that's why I especially love peer-to-peer fundraising, because it's not only an opportunity to raise funds, it's an opportunity to raise awareness. So framing it as a gift, not an ask, helps me feel a lot less nervous about inviting others to make a donation. And speaking of nerves, number 3, here's why we're also happy that you're with us learning about fundraising. When you're new to it, fundraising can be scary. But like anything, the more that you know, the less scared you'll be. It's like it results when we ask our volunteers to be bold in their advocacy. At first, it's really hard to step out of your comfort zone. That first MP visit, that first letter to the editor, it gets your heart beating in your chest. It's scary. But every time you take a step out of your comfort zone, you become a bit more bold, a bit more accomplished, and that simply makes you better in every aspect of your life. So thank you for diving into fundraising. If you're new to it, thank you for your openness to learn new skills. If you're a seasoned pro, thank you for your willingness to share your commitment and knowledge with others. It's an important part of our work to support a better world.
As Chris mentioned, Fundraising is essential to ensure the day-to-day work of the organization. In our case, at Results, we are 100% independent from corporate funding or government donations. So this means that fundraisers and donors truly help to bring our bold and impactful campaigns to life. As an organization, it helps us expand our reach and elevate our impact, and it's a different and fun way to engage our current and future supporters. From a volunteer or individual point of view, it is an excellent way for you to raise awareness and create an opportunity to talk more about what you care about and why you spend time volunteering. You get to reach out to your own peers, and you get to drive the interaction within your own network. Having fundraising experience is also a great way to expand your experience and resume. So on that, allow me to do a recap or introduce you to our upcoming peer-to-peer fundraising campaign to be launched on October 1st.
Hi.
Let's not hear that video again, although it would be nice to hear Chris talk again. So October 17th is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, a globally recognized day to support those living in poverty. To mark the day in October, we are launching an EndPoverty challenge to raise awareness and to raise funds to address key issues exacerbated by COVID-19, from lack of health services and education to the basic survival necessities of food and water. To be clear, for our Results Canada volunteers on the line, this will be the main focus of our October call to action. The peer-to-peer fundraising will be experiential, and you will have two options. Pick as many days as you can within the month of October to eat food costing no more than $2.40 Canadian per day, and fundraise by inviting your network to support you in reaching your EndPoverty challenge. The second option is pick as many days as you can to walk, wheel, or run 6 kilometers per day within the month of October again, and fundraise by inviting your network to support you in reaching your EndPoverty challenge. Doing an experiential fundraising campaign is a great and interesting and visual way to tell a story and showcase the importance of our work. The main two goals of the campaign are to raise awareness, and the main two goals of the campaign are to raise awareness, and the second goal is to fundraise $15,000 Canadian. In recent years, results advocacy efforts have been focused on advancing global health equity and education for all. Now, given the devastating impact of COVID-19 on the livelihoods of those living in poverty, we want to scale up our advocacy in support of economic opportunity. Funds raised will help finance the research, staff capacity, and volunteer tools needed to advance our ongoing work in support of economic opportunity for all. All details and tools will be launched as part of our October call to action on October 1st, and you will be able to do your fundraiser for the number of days you wish, as long as it's completed in October. You will get access to a toolkit that includes tips, reminders, templates to thank your donors, social media images you can use, as well as details on how to set up your own fundraising page. This is the page that you will be able to share with your peers so they can donate to you as part of the EndPoverty challenge. On the screen to the right are a few examples of tools that you can expect. We have gotten requests and feedback from volunteers as we develop this campaign, and we have listened to your needs. Let's now jump into some general fundraising tips. Let's start with the beginning, how to start fundraising. This, depending on the case, may be applicable to you as an individual or as an organization. Before anything, you have to ask yourself, how will you fundraise? What will work for you at the time that you want to fundraise? What is happening in the world? Some methods to fundraise are direct mail, events, online donations, door-to-door solicitation, phone solicitations, email marketing, text to give, partnerships and sponsorships, peer-to-peer fundraising, etc. As an example, in our COVID-19 days, you will need to ask yourself what makes sense while considering what are the local health guidelines in place. As you saw earlier, for our fundraising this year, we decided to focus on peer-to-peer fundraising as it can be done virtually and alone or with your immediate bubble, such as walking on your own. Funds will be obviously collected online. Secondly, determine your personal fundraising goal. We will probably never see this enough, but pick a fundraising goal that feels achievable and realistic for you. Just so you know, data shows that usually roughly first-timers will raise approximately $200. Then decide on logistical details. How long will you want to fundraise for? How will you collect the funds? Who are you asking to fundraise, or who will you ask for funds? Are you asking your current donors to bump up their monthly donations? Are you asking folks who are not donors to become monthly donors or give one-time only gift? As a side note, if you ever wonder, any organization will tell you that monthly donors are very important because not only do they demonstrate a strong commitment to your cause, but they also provide regular and predictable income. This helps small organizations like ours plan accordingly. As an organization, you can also consider creating a friendly competition amongst your supporters and fundraisers. As an example, at results for our upcoming campaign, the top 3 fundraisers will get a results prize pack. This next one is closely linked to number 3, but it feels like it needed its own point. Setting up your fundraising page. You earlier decided how you're collecting, so now is the time to set that up. If you are taking part in a fundraising campaign with an organization, most times the main campaign page will be created by the organization, like the one on the right. But you should be able to personalize your own fundraising page, which is now what you can see on the right. There are lots of platforms out there for this, and as an organization, you will need to take into consideration all of the back end from creating the form, to the email series that will be triggered, to colors, etc. And again, to be really safe and clear, for those taking part in our EndPoverty challenge, don't worry about any of that, as all you'll need to do is personalize your fundraising page, and it's quite easy actually. So you may wonder, what should you say on your fundraising page? Here are a few things to consider, and my colleague Camille will cover how to communicate powerfully later. Be emotional. People donate based off of how they feel, not based off of logic, buzzwords, or organizational lingo. Be conversational. People can understand conversational language faster than formal. It comes across as more real, more genuine. Use the word you a lot. You is a powerful and warm word, and it helps maintain your connection to your donor. Read your story out loud. Does it sound sincere, natural, and easy to understand? On the right is my own personal fundraising page. You can see that I've determined my own fundraising goal of $150 that will contribute to the overall organization's campaign of $15,000. I have added my photo, and because my peers are either English or French speakers, I have added my story in both languages. But this is not mandatory, of course not. It is up to you, as you know best your audience and your peers. It's now time to get started on launching your fundraising activity, whether you are an individual or an organization. As an organization, you will have to make sure to equip your supporters with tools and clear messaging. As an individual fundraising, it's time for you to start reaching out to your peers and promoting why you are taking part in this. You could get started by first making a donation to your own fundraising page. Other people are more likely to donate to your page when they see that someone has already contributed. Donating some of your own money also demonstrates the potential to supporters that you are serious about helping the cause. Reach out individually to your closest contacts and ask them for donations first. You could email them, call them, text them. You know your peers, so pick the method that will resonate best with each individual. Getting your inner circle to donate to your page will help you build up some momentum. After all, your inner circle includes the people who are most likely to donate. Also, keep in mind that studies show that as you make progress towards your fundraising goal, people become more and more likely to donate. When you start with your closest contacts and work outwards, you ensure that you build up progress from your core supporters before you reach out to the people who are perhaps less likely to donate. This means you can maximize your chances of ultimately reaching or exceeding your fundraising goal. So it could look like this. Day 1, email, call, or text. 5 to 10 very close contacts, so like family and your closest friend or two. Day 2, email 10 to 50 close contacts, your entire circle of good friends. On day 3, you could email and as many other contacts that you feel comfortable sending a message to. So coworkers, friends of friends, distant relatives, your entire address book, perhaps. And day 4, take it to social media and beyond. Promote across your social media channels. So allow me to do a bit of recap on some things I said earlier that I want to highlight, and then look at some other tips and best practices. Set a small but realistic fundraising goal for yourself. When it comes to peer-to-peer, best to have more people involved than fewer big amounts. Practice how you will communicate. More to come on that with Timmy. Communicate on social media, via email, your journey, photos of you cooking, walking, etc. Don't make your updates always about asking for funds. Share information, details, photos, personal anecdotes. Refer to tools provided to you that should include images, clear messaging, templates to thank your donors. You are not alone. Reach out to volunteers or friends and family, especially those nearby, as you can walk together as an example. Do not hesitate to follow up. We all get bombarded with information. It is very likely that your peers may have missed your message or thought that they'd get back to it, but simply forgot. Thank your donors and make it personal as much as possible. If on social media, tag and thank the people who have already donated to you. Not only can this increase exposure across both of your profiles, but this also sets the stage to the rest of your followers that people are already donating to your page. Know your audience and best way to reach them. You alone will know what resonates best to your peers. It's exactly like when you're planning on advocating to your member of parliament. You should know your MP and the best way to reach out to them so you can influence them and inspire a change in behavior. It's exactly the same when it comes to fundraising. You want to create a change in behavior, which in this case is to get your peers to donate to you. And as you're here for fundraising tips, here's a few more. Setting internal goals. This is different than how much you hope to raise in total. This is about setting goals for how much you want to raise and by when, which helps you accomplish two things. First, you create more urgency when you ask friends and family for support. Second, you give yourself a reason to follow up. Make the suggested donation symbolic or reflective of our mission. For example, $20.30 to symbolize our goal to end poverty by the year 2030. Make it about you. Be confident in yourself. People donate to you because you're passionate. They want to hear from you and why you care about results. Follow the 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time informing potential donors about the kind of volunteer work you do, and 20% actually asking for money. So that means that on social media, don't make every post an ask. Share inspiring news stories or other positive anecdotes about the cause too. Include progress updates in your follow-up messages and anecdotes about so share inspiring news stories or other positive anecdotes about the cause too. Include progress updates in your follow-up messages, period, end of sentence. Remember to continue using social media. Social media is a softer medium for communicating with your contacts, and it's more acceptable to freely post updates in those channels. Know when to let it go. You have to be comfortable with what you're doing, and you have to be in tune with your audience. If someone says no, a firm no, don't ask them again. Don't take it personally either, and know when to move on. Lastly, but surely, take time to reflect and celebrate. You should be proud of what you have accomplished. You potentially push yourself out of your comfort zone yet again and have done something new or that you haven't done in a while. You can be confident that you have raised awareness about our important issues, and any amount collected, combined with everyone else's, will be put towards good use. Be yourself, respect your limit and the limits of others, and above it all, have fun. I am now happy to pass it over to my colleague, Camille. For everyone to know, I will be clicking Camille's slides, so there may be a bit of delay between her speaking and the slides changing over.
Hello, fundraisers. So if you're a volunteer taking part in the challenge in October, I want to talk about fundraising events. By no means you're not obligated to host a fundraising event, but you can. And you can do that any time of year also. They're a really fun way of engaging people. And since we're running a bit behind, I'm not going to go into super big detail, but the real thumb is if it's virtual, it needs a structure and it needs a lot of engagement to keep people interested. And if it's in person, if it's safe, you have more freedom to do something a bit more casual, a bit more chit chat, a bit more networking. And that can also be really fun. No matter what though, big important things to remember is to invite 3 times the amount of people that you want to attend and have a plan for promoting your event. So follow up with people who are SVP'd to make sure that you anchor their interest on showing up. And lastly, it's taking your time to actually explain why you're fundraising, because it's really tempting to focus on the activity that you chose to center your event around, but it's really important for the people who attend to know why you're doing this, why you're passionate, and why they should donate. And my colleague is going to share really in-depth guides in the chat box if you're more interested to dig deep on fundraising events specifically. And now let's talk about fears. I have trained many of fundraisers in my day, and these are the most common fears in my experience that come up. And these fears sometimes operate as a mental roadblock to stop you from fundraising at all. So let's unblock them right away. I don't know if they can afford it. I don't want to seem pushy. I feel really unprepared to answer questions. And lastly, I don't know if it's a good time to fundraise for advocacy because XYZ is going on right now. So if you recognize yourself in any of these fears, pay close attention. So the first one, I don't know if they can afford it, pardon me. That's right, you don't actually know if they can afford it or not, but we tend to assume that people's finances are a lot tighter than they really are, and that they don't want to spend on donations. But the truth is really simple, is you don't know until you ask. It's better not to assume and to let that person make that decision for themselves. But this is a really great segue into the next fear, which is, I don't want to be pushy. I will advise you to make a really conscious effort to distinguish a firm no from a maybe, from a person who's going to procrastinate thinking about this, or as I call them, a procrastidonor. Asking a no person multiple times is actually pushy. Like Melissa said, it's better to drop it and move on and not take it personally. However, asking a maybe person multiple times is just making sure that they're well-informed and comfortable about their donations. Those are people who say, I just want to research more, or this or that, where are the funds going? And they just kind of want to absorb the information and think about it later. Now for the procrastidonor, asking them multiple times is doing them a favor because they will take the path of least resistance. Those are the people who hate making decisions on the spot. They need a simmering period. Those people will never donate unless you do a few follow-ups. And in their case, it's a bit more appreciated because you gave them the time and space to simmer and to make a decision they're ultimately happy about. Next question is, I feel unprepared to answer questions. That one's fairly easy. Honesty is key. You say, it's a great question. I don't know the answer, but I'll contact the results staff right away. I'll get clarification for you and I'll let you know before we move on any further. That's usually what you would say to a person who's a maybe, actually. This just shows respect for their need to know more before donating. And if you think about the procrastidonor as well, it's always good to give a cooling period to people, especially in peer-to-peer fundraising. Now the last one, that's a big one. There's stuff going on in the world. Why would does it feel weird? Does it feel icky to ask about donations for advocacy? I mean, it's a legitimate concern and it's good that you're thinking about world issues, but there's always going to be something big deserving of funds going on in the world. You shouldn't let that stop you from pursuing something that is also important for you. It's possible to support multiple world issues, support advocacy, support local organizations all at once. It's not really a zero-sum game. Most people actually do donate to a very diverse portfolio of different issues and sectors. What really is going to help you if you're feeling this fear is to focus on the transformational power of advocacy, the big value proposition that you're giving to your donor. So both directly funding on-the-ground operations and funding advocacy so that Canada invests more abroad, those are two different things, those are two valuable things. So by enabling those who don't have the time to do advocacy by giving them the opportunity to fund it, that's a really good way of diversifying their portfolio of donations. So the key really here is to have a dialogue, a bit of a back and forth. It's not to have a pre-prepared answer as to what's going on in the world. It's to have a discussion with your peer who you're asking to donate. And the big fear, which is just fear of asking for money. It feels weird. If you've never fundraised before, it can be just really daunting to get started. So my advice here is to be assumptive. Assumptive means that you're assuming that the person will say yes when you ask them to donate. So you can see Rochelle's example on the screen right now. She finishes with, can you think of a better value for your hard-earned dollar? So be like Rochelle, she's full of confidence. She thinks the donations that she's asking for are going to a good place. And it really shows by the way she's talking about it. Again, it's normal to feel anxious. This is where I really advise fake it till you make it, because it's always going to feel a little bit nerve-wracking to ask for money the first go around. Maybe the first 10 times you do it, but over time, I promise you, it gets a lot less daunting. And when you don't let your shyness take over your ask, you're not giving your potential donor a reason to perhaps doubt the validity of their donation, right? If I'm asking, do you think you could donate? The potential donor thinks they don't look sure. Should I donate? I don't know, you tell me. Versus, can I count on you? Basically, you're letting the person decide for themselves without sort of giving them a vibe, let's say. So that was all about fears. Now let's talk about our model at results for communicating powerfully. It's called EPIC, E-P-I-C. We have a whole guide that my colleague is going to share in the chat box that you can read, but I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of how it works. E is for engage your audience. You want to give the person you're talking to a reason to listen to whatever else is coming. A big fact, something that's really going to be piquing their interest. P is for state the problem. It's important to make sure that the person you're talking to is well informed, so they need to know what exactly it is that you're trying to solve. Try to pick something that's fairly specific to what you're working on at that specific moment. I is for inform about solutions. It's really important for people to know there's a problem, but you can't leave them feeling like the world is a terrible place. You have to leave them feeling like there are solutions and you are in the know and you have a solution in mind that you want them to participate in. And C is for call to action. Even if you go through the P and the I, if you stop it there, the person isn't engaged. The person knows things, you're raising awareness, but the call to action is to say, you as an individual, here's what you can do to engage in this problem and in this solution. So I'm gonna give you a quick top tips before I move on to give you an example, because it's always helpful to follow theory with practice. But the more you make this EPIC presentation personal, the better. Why you donate your time, why you are passionate. Making it impactful, meaning why the donations are so important. This is going to be part of your call to action, let's say. Make it short. People have a limited amount of time and you want this to be more of a conversation opener. Think about it like an elevator pitch. What you want is not for the person to necessarily understand all of the world issues that you're covering in one elevator ride. What you're hoping is to get a meeting with that person to follow up with another conversation. In terms of peer-to-peer fundraising, it's more like you want the person to have a good basic understanding and you want them to ask follow-up questions and you want to engage in a dialogue that is much longer than your initial EPIC that you've designed as a conversation opener. And now I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so there's going to be an EPIC written down on the screen as I say it, but I'm going to say it in my own words. So it might be a little bit different from what you're seeing on your screen because it's important to use your own voice. I'm going to be pretending like I'm speaking to my Aunt Melissa. I've already told her a little bit about what I've been up to, what I've been volunteering with, and now I'm going to launch myself into my EPIC. So Melissa, for the first time in a generation, attempts to end poverty have suffered a setback because of COVID-19. And just to paint you a picture, it's about 120 million people that are now living in poverty. And that total is expected to rise to 150 million by the end of 2021. All this is according to the World Bank. This is incredibly frustrating to me because extreme poverty rates have begun to decline in the 1990s, and this is the biggest blow to that by far since then. As you already know, I donate my time to Results to stand in solidarity with those living in poverty. And us volunteers are raising funds for Result this month of October, because on the 17th is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. The funds are earmarked to help finance Results' advocacy work to advance the economic opportunity for all pillar of our work. So what I'm asking from you, Melissa, is to consider donating to my fundraising campaign. Fundraising, the advocacy work that we do will help address the really devastating impacts of COVID-19 on the livelihoods of people living in extreme poverty. So what do you say? So that's an example of an epic. I hope you were able to follow through. If you want a little more detail on that, Robin has already shared those guides in the chat box. So what happens after epic? I said it's a conversation starter. So yeah, then what? Then some people will have a desire for more information. In that case, it's really just making sure that you're giving them correct information or telling them you're getting back to them. But others need a bit more of convincing. So that could be in the form of an opinion, an objection, an idea, an anecdote that's really just an objection. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of how you can engage in respectful dialogue and see if you can turn that maybe, I'm not sure, I don't know, let's talk about it, into a maybe or even a yes. So first of all, ask clarifying questions. You need to truly understand where they are coming from. Keep the back and forth going as long as you need to really understand their perspective, because that is key for what's coming up next, is to validate their thoughts. Almost all perspectives are valid and they should be treated as such. So if you want them to see your point of view, you need to communicate explicitly that you understand theirs and prove that you do. Next, you use yes and. If you've ever done improv, you know this trick. No but, well actually, is not as good as yes and. You follow yes and with presenting a new perspective, pardon me. Presenting your new perspective is basically saying, although your perspective is completely valid, at the same time, there is this other perspective that I would like you to consider. You're asking the person to go from the land of opinions to the area of nuance, and you don't need to convince them on the spot, really. It's absolutely possible to have a really productive back and forth and talk about their perspective, talk about yours, see how you can meet in the middle, give them a cooling off period and see if they want to talk about it again later. Now, Melissa and I are going to do a little role play to show you how to battle an objection, and then we're going to send you into breakout groups. So Melissa's my aunt. Like I said, she's wearing a beret to prove that she's my aunt, because obviously she's far too young to be my aunt, but she's putting on a costume. So we're working off the topic. We're at a family gathering. We're talking about a bunch of stuff. I presented my epic to her, and Melissa has something to say about it.
Well, Kemi, I'm so glad you're doing something you love and that you volunteer. You know what though? I prefer to donate to local organizations. It's just my preference. I'm not too sure about all of this international development stuff.
Oh yeah, you give every month to United Way, don't you?
Yes, through my work.
Yeah, can I ask what kind of organizations actually get support through your work? What makes them important to you? I would like to know.
That's a great question. Well, it mostly goes to organizations that fight homelessness here in Canada, and actually also support your cousin Jacob when he does runs for the Cancer Society. You know, it just makes sense to donate here first because there's so much poverty here, and it's important to fix what's in your own backyard.
Yeah, the Cancer Society is a really popular one because, I mean, almost everybody knows somebody affected by cancer.
Yeah, it's really a big one for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's completely valid to prefer donating to local organizations, and I will not argue that international cooperation is more important than what you support in Canada. At the same time, I do volunteer with Results, as you know, because Canada is going to make investments abroad anyway, but I can influence the amount and the direction of those investments through advocacy, and they can be routed towards really high quality initiatives. And I find that really interesting. I also think that you can't really disconnect yourself from international issues anymore. You know, COVID-19 was a perfect example of that. We need to ensure equitable access to healthcare and vaccines all around the world for this to be truly over for everyone. And what we do here, what countries like Canada do, actually makes a difference. Canada really should pull its weight, I think. And in that sense, these days you have multiple community ties, and you have your local community and your global community that you affect as well. Now, listen, I'm not going to make you make a decision on the spot, but without taking away from the local organizations that you support, I would appreciate it if you would just consider expanding the scope of your donations to fit in results eventually.
You bring some good points. I see what you mean. Okay, all right, I'll think about it. Perhaps just ask me again next week.
Yeah, let's talk again at the next family dinner. Okay, so what I did, I clarified what she meant, what her preferences were, what her opinions were. It was a little clunky, it was a little fast. In a real conversation, there would be a lot more back and forth. But what she indicated to me at the end of the day is that community ties matter a lot to her in terms of what she's going to choose to donate to. So I validated her definition of community, and then I added another valid way of defining community, and I asked her to consider it. So remember, the peer-to-peer is really all about dialogue, starting a conversation about the issues that you care about. And you don't necessarily have to go all the way through to the donation ask. If it had been my Uncle Claude and he said, I don't care about these international things, I may talk to him about it, but I probably wouldn't go as far as donating, because in my peer-to-peer network, I know that he would have been a firm no. But I can tell that my Aunt Melissa, based on all the conversations that I've had before, might be a little bit more open to thinking about it. So the conclusion here is there is no harm in asking. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go into breakouts, and you're going to do exactly what Melissa and I did. You are going to pretend that you're a family member. One person, you're going to be doing this in pairs. So one person is going to be a family member or a friend or anything like that. You'll explain who you are to them, and you will tell them what your objection is. And the person in the role of fundraiser is going to try and convince you to see it a different way, and they're going to try and switch your perspective. Try to keep it about 2 minutes per practice so you can switch roles. There may be 3 people in some breakout rooms, so the person who is just observing should be able to take a turn as well. And we will be sharing all these instructions again in your chats within the breakout room, so don't worry if you haven't caught everything that's on screen right away. Melissa, are you ready to send them out?
Yes. You should get a countdown if I do this correctly. All right, you should get notified right now that you are invited to your breakouts. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, we had a few folks leave, so I had to move people around to make sure that you were not alone. So my apologies for if that happened and you were alone for a little while. That was really not the plan. It's just folks had to leave. So my apologies. So welcome back. A couple of things before we jump into Q&A. So actually now is the time to start preparing your questions. You can put them in the chat box, or you can actually raise your hand and then we will get to you. So the few things I wanted to say in regards to next steps. So for those who are involved with us at Results, plan on attending our next call. And it will be focused on EndPoverty Challenge, and it is our usual call to action Q&A that we have at the beginning of the month, and where we're really going to deep into the questions that are very specific to the EndPoverty Challenge, even the technical side of things if you have any questions. That is taking place on Tuesday, October 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for 45 minutes. And if you are not a volunteer with us, this is your opportunity to join as a volunteer, read about what volunteers do, and join us as a side note, if you selected contact me when you registered to this webinar, you don't need to do anything, as we will get in touch with you if we have not done so already. Are you already a Results Canada volunteer? Well, get engaged and join the conversation by joining our Slack channel, Fundraising Campagne Financement, so that we can help each other out. Learn more about results by finding helpful resources and learning how to take action at resultscanada.ca. And of course, last but not least, if you have learned a thing or two in this webinar, consider donating to us. The link, this link and all of the other links will be shared in the chat box as well. So in the next few seconds, I will stop sharing our screen so that we can see each other and we can get to your questions. But as we do that, I will leave our contacts live for a few seconds so you can take note. And again, all details are shared in the chat box as well. So I'll leave it up for a few. And then I will move a few things around so that I can see you if you have your hand up. And open up the chat box as well. Now is your time for questions or comments. Aha, okay, I got one question through the back ends of the chat box. So the question is, what should I do to keep up with momentum? I might have, like, I think I'll expand on the question. The campaign might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending. How do I keep up the momentum? I might be tired midway through. So what would be your recommendations or suggestions, Camille?
Yes, I'll take over. Well, if you'll recall, Melissa did mention to have personal fundraising goals throughout. So for example, if you're fundraising for 2 weeks, you might say, I am hoping to collect $25 every 3 days in total. And you may need to keep that up to keep your momentum. Or if that's too much pressure, you might need to reevaluate how you frame your fundraising campaign. You might need to set better boundaries and pick some specific times when you do your fundraising outreach. And, you know, be open to reassessing what is feasible. If you're finding that your momentum is slowing down because you're not hitting all of those goals that you set for yourself, it's okay to pause, plan sort of maybe a little intense burst at the end of your fundraising campaign and say, what will happen there will happen there, and it's no hard feelings on myself. I'm not gonna be mean to myself. And I guess the last thing I would suggest in order to keep momentum is to rely on your co-volunteers. It's talk to your group leader, talk to other volunteers in your group, show them your epic and ask them for feedback, that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. And definitely I want to emphasize what Camille said. Well-being, your well-being is really important. So you have to really listen to yourself, okay? Like we don't want you to be burned out because of this. So take care of yourself, rely on your friends, your families, your co-volunteers if you need to take a break. You can't walk anymore for a day, just take a break, it's okay. I see a question from Nancy. What do we start the fundraising? Do you mean when do we start the fundraising, Nancy?
Yes, sorry, I made a mistake. When do we?
No problem. So I'm assuming you're asking specifically for the EndPoverty challenge in October. Is that right?
Yeah, October.
Yeah. So you will receive all of the details in your email inbox on October 1st. And then you basically have the whole month of October to get organized, to decide how long you're going to do your fundraiser for, how many days you're going to eat less than $2.40 per day, or how many days you're going to walk. So it's entirely up to you. We are guessing that people are going to take time to digest the information, set up their fundraising page. So I think that the second week of October is when people are actually going to start fundraising, but that is entirely up to you. You could do it for 1 day, for 30 days, for 31 days, for 2 weeks. It's really up to you based on what you're comfortable doing. You could also combine and do 6 kilometers of walking and then eating for 3 days. It's entirely up to you based on what you are interested in doing. But you will get everything and all access to everything on October 1st, which is next Friday.
Mhm. Okay. And my other question is that if I try different methods of fundraising, and for example, after 2 weeks, I don't find it effective, who do I reach out to?
I think that's a case where the first area we should ask is the people who volunteer with you, and present them your epic and show them what you've done and ask them what they've been doing, especially if there's a volunteer in your group who's been doing really well. See what they've been doing, see what you can emulate from them. But at the end of the day, it might just be that your peer-to-peer network is different from theirs, right? So I think I would advise, think about your audience, think about what you could change to really appeal to your audience. And if nobody in your group is really helpful, you can also reach out to me at action@resultscanada.ca. Give me as much detail about what you've been doing as possible so that I can help off the bat.
Is that okay to approach to people in public places?
I would say because of the context of COVID, it's probably not advisable at the moment.
Mhm.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that, but it also depends on what's going on locally for you and what is your comfort level. I have found that if I have a sign or I'm wearing a costume, I find it's easier to approach folks than if I'm just going to people. So it's really also up to you to see what is your comfort level, but always keep in mind what is going on locally and is that safe, and do you feel safe, and is it safe for others to approach in public settings. But if you want to try it, don't see why not.
Okay, thank you. Yes, because of the COVID pandemic, everything is different now. Yeah, I have to have those consideration too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for now we would, like, if you were to ask us, we would really say focus on virtual, on doing things on your own, calling, sharing on social media. You can talk also, you can get a letter to the editor published in the newspaper and talk about your experience with results, why you volunteer, why this is important. There's different ways that you can also raise awareness through this campaign.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Pleasure. We are actually at time. Wow, time flew by. So it's actually, if you want to be part of the group photo, this is the time that if you want to, turn on your webcam and we will take a photo and share on social media. But it's really only if you're comfortable doing so. I will do a countdown. I'll give you a few seconds to get yourself ready. If you want to use a filter or something fun on, please feel free. You can say hello. I think I'm going to put back my aunt hat and pretend I'm Kemi's aunt. All right, so 3, 2, 1, smile. Perfect. I think everyone's, no, let me take that again. I was going to say everyone's eyes are open, but that's not true. So let's do it one more time. 3, 2, 1, smile. And don't blink. Perfect. Thank you all so very much for your time this evening, and to those who have watched the recording all to the end. Don't be shy, reach out to any of us at any time, and we look forward to seeing you all active online in your neighborhood in the next month or in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was a great session. Thanks very much.
For being here.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. It's great.